Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the ARCHIDEX Fast Forward webinar series. And we are excited to bring you a good lineup of industry, education, and product talks this week. My name is Lillian, and I'll be your MC for today. ARCHIDEX Fast Forward is a webinar series focused on the holistic perspective from the industry. Each session brings together collaboration from the industry with renowned architecture and building professionals sharing their experiences from various perspectives, including industry, business, and education to address current key issues and topics. To our audience, thank you for your time today to join us. We would appreciate if you could do a quick and short survey to let us know how you think of our ARCHIDEX Fast Forward webinar series at the end of today's session. In today's afternoon chat session, we gather around handpicked suppliers from ARCHIDEX Online to speak with a renowned architect covering topics that revolves around gender equality and equity in construction and the built environment, industry challenges, trends, along with star products and its application for every project sourcing need. With that, let me introduce the hosts, key speakers, and the panelists for today. We are delighted to have architect interior designer Alice Leong today as our host. Alice graduated from USM with double degrees, Bachelor of Science HBP Honorary in Architecture and Bachelor of Architecture. She is the manager of Architect MAA Sdn Bhd, an experienced practicing architect registered with the Board of Architects Malaysia. She is now the honorary treasurer of Malaysia Institute of Architects. She is appointed as International Unions of Architects SDGs Commission Committee of Region 4 and also a committee member in Architects Regional Council Asia, Green and Sustainable Architecture Committee and Zone B representative. She is a qualified GBI facilitator, a GBI accredited panel, a qualified registered professional interior designer, accredited building inspector, and arbitrator under PAM panel list. Together with her today, we have two key speakers with us, Architect Datuk Tan Pei Ying and Mr. S.T. Ng. Architect Datuk Tan is the founder of PI Architect. She is the past president of PAM and Acacia, board member of Board of Architects Malaysia, and UIA Region 4 Council member. She is also the director of Green Building Index Sdn Bhd and member of Melbourne University Advisory Board. Mr. S.T. Ng graduated in architecture from Deakin University, Australia. He was the president of an MNC in Malaysia. Prior to that, he was the project director of a property development company involving in residential, commercial, and high-rise mixed developments. He is experienced in corporate governance and compliance matters, as well as various people and culture programs, such as health and safety, performance management, diversity, and equal opportunity. He is currently a member of two PAM subcommittees, PAM Gender Equity and PAM Convention. He now acts as a business consultant. Together with us is also three panelists, and they are: the first panelist is Mr. Desmond Hall, Marketing Development Executive of DML Ceiling and Louvers, has a reputable resume of vast knowledge in regards to ceiling and louvers work in the construction industry. Being a dedicated employee of DML, Desmond has participated in many marketing efforts for the company to increase product knowledge and company revenue. While working in various environments, he possesses intuitive thinking and problem solving to rise up to any occasion. Our second panelist is Mr. Lee Jo Wee, Managing Director of Jotex Sdn Bhd. Mr. Lee graduated as Bachelor of Computer Science US and Master in Business Administration in Australia. He inherited the family business of Jotex with more than 15 years of experience in home furnishing, manufacturing, and distribution, expanding the business network of distribution across Southeast Asia with more than 1,000 independent dealers and interior designers across the country. He also achieved awards and recognition, being 2018 Soba Entrepreneur of the Year and 2019 Alibaba Netpreneur Program in Hangzhou. Our third and final panelist is Mr. Terry Tay. He is involved in the inception of Golden Home Kitchen with his 8 years experience from fund management, operations, and sales. Currently, he oversees the whole sales and operation of Golden Home kitchen retail, business, and 3 showrooms located in Malaysia. Now, that was a mouthful. With that, I'll now like to bring Architect Alice on screen with me. Hi, Architect Alice, how are you today?
Hi, Lillian. I'm good. I'm fine. Thank you.
That's awesome. All right, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lillian. Thank you so much for the short introductions about myself and the speakers and the other panels. So, without further ado, I will just, as everybody knows, that I'm Alice, and today I'll be the host for these sessions. So, again, I thank you so much for all of you to sparing your precious time with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, just let me brief you a little bit about what's the difference between the gender equity and gender equality. People always get confused about this. There are differences about that. So gender equity is actually the process of being fair to women and men. And gender equality requires equal enjoyment by the women and men of socially valued goods, opportunity, resources, and rewards. So we know that gender equalities and equities in all industry, including construction industry, is often highlighted, but it often results in producing design that highlight the difference between the man and the woman, although both the needs and characteristics vary more between individual than between the genders. So gender discrimination is extremely common across the world. The stats are even higher now that the coronavirus pandemic is ravaging the world as time the great crisis often put women on the front lines. Women predominate in key roles as nurses, social workers, caregivers, etc. And they are also, working as the volunteers and politicians, community leaders, making critical decisions about how to address the public health, social economies, effects, and others. So women's participations will be vital to our success against these shared global threats. So sadly, the risk of being subjected to this violence increases in times of distress, such as outbreaks of COVID-19. Gender disparities always take shapes in unequal opportunities in the economic life. The process to fix it, to increase the diversities between the genders, or for all industry and our industry, which is a construction industry, will take a little bit time to reach that balance. So today, it really honors to have Architect Dato' Tan Pei as well as ST Ng to be with us to share their ideas on these topics. They will explain and share much more details with all of us. So with that, I would like to invite our Dato' Pei to be on the screen, and I'll hand over to her to do her presentation. Hi, Pei.
Hi, Alice. Hi. Hi, good
Hi.
afternoon. Yeah. Hi,
Yep.
thank you for the introduction
Yep.
and thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to cover briefly on the topic on gender equality, which is under UN Sustainable Development Goal number 5. Okay. Gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. It calls to end all forms of discrimination, ensure equal access to education, healthcare, decent work and effective participations, and equal opportunity for leadership at all levels of decision-making in political, economic, and public life. There are 9 key targets under SDG Goal 5: end discrimination, end all violence and exploitation, eliminate forced marriages and genital mutilation, value unpaid care and promote shared domestic responsibilities, ensure full participations in leadership and decision-making, universal access to reproductive health and rights, equal rights to economic resources, property ownership and financial services, promote empowerment of women, and adopt and strengthen policies and enforceable legislation for gender equality. So based on the recent finding by United Nations, the effects of COVID-19 have reversed the limited progress that has been made on gender equality and women's rights. The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbates existing inequalities from health and the economy to security and social protection, such as follow. Women play a disproportionate role in responding to the virus, including as frontline healthcare workers and carers at home. Women's unpaid care work has increased significantly as a result of school closure and the increased needs of older people. Women are also harder hit by the economic impact of COVID-19, as they disproportionately work in insecure labor markets. The pandemic has also led to a steep increase in violence against women and girls. With lockdown measures, many women are trapped at home with their abusers. Another nation has established COVID-19 response plan to mitigate the impact of COVID-19, focusing on 5 priorities. 1, mitigate and reduce violence. 2, provide social protection and economic stimulus packages. 3, people support and practice equal sharing of care work. 4, to allow females to lead and participate in COVID-19 response plan and decision making, and data and coordination mechanism include gender perspectives. This will provide opportunity for radical, positive actions to redress long-standing inequalities in multiple areas of women's life and build a more just and resilient world. Let's look at the position of women in the world scene. This is the latest 2020 Global Gender Gap by World Economic Forum, based on the combinations of economic participations and opportunity, education attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment. These are the best and worst countries for gender equality. The top 3 are Iceland, Norway, and Finland, and the worst are Pakistan, Iraq, and Yemen. How about Malaysia? In 2020, we ranked 104 out of a total of 153 countries with an index of only 0.677, which is quite alarming. This graph shows Malaysia's Global Gender Gap Index from 2011 to 2020. Over the last 10 years, our progress in closing the gap is extremely slow, with an improvement of only 0.03. And Malaysia ranked number 9 out of the 10 ASEAN countries. Philippines is the only ASEAN country that has made it to the top 20 over many years. This chart shows that female salaries and wages in Malaysia are always lower than male in all occupations in 2018. For professionals, the gap is around 15%. This is a summary of a study by Ipsos in collaboration with the International Women's Day. The survey was conducted in 27 countries around the world in 2018. It highlights the level of concerns about equality issues. The top issues facing women globally are sexual harassment, sexual violence, and physical violence. Malaysians agree with the same issues, with the exception of sexualizations of women in the media, which is ranked 3rd in Malaysia. Balancing work and caring responsibilities and gender stereotypings are also more pressing issues for Malaysians compared to the global audience. The issue of gender equality has been addressed at the UN levels across all spectrum. What about gender equality in architecture? Has this been addressed? Taking into considerations that traditionally, building industry has always been regarded as male-dominated. If you go to Google and type famous architects, only Zaha Hadid appears on the first page among all the male architects. Out of the total listed under the search, the other female names which appear are only Jean Gang and Dennis Scott Brown among a sea of male architects. This is the 40 most famous architects of the 21st century, published by ARCHIDEX. Only 4 female architects are listed: Jean, Doriana, Sheila, and Zaha. So if you look back on the history, the architecture industry is notoriously bad at recognizing the work of women. Big names like Le Corbusier, Mies, Wright, and Kahn often had equally inspired female peers, but the rigid structure of the society meant that their contributions tended to be overlooked. In honor of the International Women's Day, these 10 greatest overlooked women in architecture history were identified. For example, Marian Mahoney Griffin was not only one of the first licensed female architects in the world, but was her first employee of Wright. She exerted a considerable influence on the development of the Paris style, while her watercolor renderings were synonymous with Wright's work. However, she was not credited. Dennis Scott Brown, together with her partner Robert Venturi, had an enormous influence on the development of architecture design during the 20th century. However, when her husband was awarded the Pritzker Prize in 1991, she failed to receive a mention. Since 1979, there are only 5 female Pritzker Prize recipients. Zaha Hadid in 2004, Katsuyo received it with her partner Ru in 2010, Kame received it with her 2 other male partners in 2017, and both Yvonne and Shirley are the joint recipients in 2020. So what is the status of female architects in Malaysia? In conjunction with the International Women's Day, PAM produced a video featuring some eminent women architects in Malaysia. The numbers are also rather small. So we have also compiled the PAM membership statistic for the last 5 years, from 2015 to 2020. For the year 2020, the percentage of female students is close to 50%. However, the percentage dropped to 37% for graduate membership and dropped even further to only 20% for corporate membership. This condition is not unique to only Malaysia, but also for more developed countries such as Australia and USA. This slide shows the percentage of women in various sectors in the Australian architecture. The inner circle represents the relevant percentage of women within the cohort. As you can see, under RIA membership, the percentage of female drops progressively after graduation, and the percentage is very similar to the percentage in Malaysia, from 45% student membership to 20% registered members. This diagram shows the reduction of female in the profession based on the year of graduation. Again, it dropped from 46% before age 30 to less than 10% after 60. It is evident that females present in the architecture profession has remained highly segregated, and there's still a great disparity between male and female representation. Why? And what have we done about it? PAM conducted the Gender Equity Online Survey in early 2020. The aim of this survey is to gather information on different trends and to identify the current status of gender equity in architecture in Malaysia. We have almost equal participations from male and female in the survey. The results collected help us identify the obstacles preventing the achievement of a better and more dynamic working life for females in the profession. It is interesting to note that the perception between male and female and the different age group with regard to the factors contributing to the underrepresentation of female in the industry are quite different. Majority of the respondents said that the perceived factors contributing to underrepresentation are related to their own choice for work-life balance and due to long working hours. While only 6.1% of the male respondents perceived female is less likely to be promoted, 24.5% of female respondents feel that they are less likely to be promoted. This also applies to pay disparity and macho culture. And more than 10% of the female respondents perceive that female are less knowledgeable, but almost all of the male respondents doesn't distinguish the level of knowledge between genders. Long working hours is of bigger concern to elder generation. However, higher percentage of younger respondents view that lack of women role model is one of the key factors causing underrepresentation of women. The response from male and female pertaining to the question of whether female is less likely to be hired is also quite different. 75% of the male as compared to only 56% of the female disagree with this. The Professional Practice Commission of the International Union of Architects set out a subcommittee on gender equity a few years ago. Surveys were carried out with the member sections. In 2007, the Cartoon Declarations of Gender Equity was signed by the PPC to pledge our commitment to promote the culture of inclusiveness within the profession. Arising from the declaration, the UIA policy on gender equity was drafted and approved by the member sections during the UIA General Assembly in Seoul in the same year. The UIA Council has also recently approved the formation of a new UIA Committee for International Women in Architecture, represented by female council members from the 5 regions. The objective is to address the ongoing debate on gender imbalance within the architecture sector. The committee will highlight the work of women architects throughout the world, celebrate female talents and leadership, and support and promote women's involvement in national and international organizations. In mid-2019, PAM also set out a special committee on gender equity. We established a PAM Declarations of Gender Equity to pledge our commitment as a member section of UIA to adopt the UIA policy on gender equity. We also published the PAM Gender Equity Policy. We believe that the policy will be beneficial not only for the empowerment of female in the society, it will promote the culture of inclusivity and diversity. It will also encourage more female participations in the profession. The policy aims to establish a general framework, setting out principles designed to maximize fair and equitable access to opportunities for female architects relating to ownership and leadership, participation as employee in the profession, representation and governance within the institute, institute programs, services and events, and operational activities within the institute. The policies outlines 10 principles as the foundation for fair and equitable participations of female within the profession. Acknowledge the profession's obligation to accommodate the diverse needs of the community, recognize and respond effectively to the diversity of members, incorporate provisions to ensure gender equitable outcomes in all institute initiatives, communicate the value of female in leadership roles. Promote equality of employment arrangements, support the development of alternative and flexible career pathways within the profession, develop cross-gender mentorship and networks, educate the profession about the impact of gender stereotypes, actively seek input on the needs of female members, and develop and coordinate specific programs to give effect to this gender equity policy. The policy also outlines a list of recommendations which I will not go into detail. It includes measures for the implementations of the policy, removal of impediments, combating gender stereotypes, more diverse representation to promote public awareness, and guides to address equitable practice. This policy was published in the Burita Architects September 2020 issue and can be downloaded from the PAM's website using the link. It is necessary for a greater effort to be made to address equitable practice and to look at best practice guidelines and how we could organize and implement these efforts quickly and effectively. I would like to share the parlor guides to equitable practice, which address 11 key areas that include pay equity, long hour culture, part-time work, flexibility, recruitment, career progression, negotiation, career break, leadership, mentoring, and registration. I would like to explain why the term equity instead of equality is adopted by both UIA and PAM in the policy. The 3 classic diagrams explain the differences well. Gender equity is more appropriate as men and women are different and cannot be treated the same way. Female architects have also been left very much behind, and for them to catch up, equality alone may not be sufficient. I wish to emphasize that gender equity policy is not just about protecting women's rights. It aims to promote inclusivity, diversity, and equity of all genders. Australian Institute of Architects has recently approved an amendment to their gender equity policy to include the provision for effort to be made to achieve 40% female, 40% male, and 20% any other gender to promote gender balance. This is a position that we should perhaps try to emulate. In conclusion, equality, diversity, and inclusivity require joint effort by all. Let us all work together to make it happen and make a difference. Thank you and stay safe. Bye. Now I would like to pass back to Architect Alice.
Thank you, Dr. Pei Ying. Wow, this is a very impressive presentation. Thank you so much for the sharing. Well, next, I would like to invite our next speaker, which is Mr. S.T. Earn. And Mr. S.T. Earn, you may have the screen. Yep, and please proceed.
Good afternoon, Architect Alice, and thank you, Architect Dr. Pei Ying, for preparing such a comprehensive information about gender equity, gender equality, and the role of women play in architecture. For me, I'm just expanding a little bit and bringing the issues closer to home about these kind of issues. First, as the student population in Malaysia, just look at some numbers, it's about 4,008, of which female is about 49%. And they are all enrolled in about 23 different universities and colleges. Now, for women to have more representation in the industry, in the profession, we need to make sure that the retention rate and the progression from being a student to a professional architect, the pool is big enough. Yeah. As what Dr. Pei Ying had mentioned, only among the graduate architect membership, there's only 33% of them, to 1/3. And how many get on to become a registered architect and practicing is only less than a quarter. In a recent survey, I think it was done somewhere in February and March last year, Pam did a survey, not just among the architects, but also they roam in people from the building industry. So one of the findings was, is female less likely to be hired. The male respondent, majority of them disagree. Whereas among the female respondents, half of them feel that they are less likely to be hired. Why is that so? Is that because there's no gender bias in our industry? See, when you have the candidate field is very limited, very few female, the chances of being hired is definitely less. Among some of the findings that Dr. Pei Ying had mentioned, if you look down towards the bottom, female less likely to be promoted, job preference for men, female less knowledgeable about architecture, female less competent with site work. Now, if you think about it, if you are the HR person, is this due to the fact that women are really less knowledgeable architecture, or is there some kind of gender bias or some kind of unconscious bias? Architect Alice and Dr. Pei Ying has also clarified gender equity versus gender equality. Gender equality is basically all gender have equal rights, responsibility, and opportunities. What if you don't have equality, like what Dr. Tan Pei Ying has mentioned? So we must put in place certain strategy and measure that can make available to compensate for the imbalance. Gender equity, on the other hand, is more about the process of being fair, not just for women, but also for men. So in a company, if a company is keen to ensure that they have diversity, then the equal distribution of resources is very important. It's not just about providing resources for women training, for men, it must be for both gender. So in a nutshell, if gender equality is the end, then gender equity is the means. Gender equity will lead to gender equality. The HBR survey actually on the female in the STEM field, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and maths. They somehow abandoned their chosen professions over a period of time. Why? Number one is the hostility of the workplace culture. Workplace culture hostility could be harassment, could be the language that the people in the workplace uses without full understanding that it may be offensive to the other gender. Sense of isolation. If the workplace has imbalanced gender, whether it's a lot of female or a lot of male, definitely the minority will feel very isolated. But with the isolation, you can't get help. You don't get role model. So in a company, that if you have a fairly large size company, you need to get this to make sure that there is a balance in terms of gender. And of course, women and men are different. That one, if we all recognize that they are different, the way they prefer to work is different, and their responsibilities are different. And sometimes, due to their commitment, they are not able to pursue their career, especially in the situation where family, where both husband and wife are working. Extreme jobs. Extreme jobs is not just about, the fact that, the job site is noisy, dirty, the environment is not conducive. Sometimes it's the working hours. Yeah. Of course, with the pandemic, work from home, maybe some of these issues, some of these problems can exacerbate. And not to mention, a lot of times, employees do not know about the company structure, promotion policy, and therefore they are not aware, they are not sure, after her working for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, how far can they go? So we must remove that mystery, have a clarity, transparency, regardless of what gender you are, you have equal opportunity. Of course, we are talking about currently in building and construction and architecture. Yeah, the leaders are not female. So the people who make decision as to whether or not the resources are attributed fairly to everyone, yeah, regardless of gender, whether or not the whole organization is aware of the kind of language, the kind of environment, the kind of other facility that we have to provide for women, they may not be aware, and not a lot of them have undergone training, yeah, to make sure that you have a balanced workplace. Gender equity is actually not a zero-sum game. It doesn't mean that men have to give up something for the other gender or the other way around. Female doesn't need to think that they have to give up for another man, because some company they have balanced gender in their organization, they have diversity. Some have more female, some have more male. Some office has more female, but the factory has more male. Or some other factory, if you are in clothing, if you are in certain other light industry, you may have more female in the factory. The question is, do you then discriminate the other gender from applying the job? Do you say male preferred or female preferred? In fact, everybody is equal. Therefore, since the leadership, most of them are men, so men need to get involved. Some of the affirmative action that can be taken in any company is to quantify gender equity and how you will impact positively to the wealth of the company, the business result. And you have to hold the leader accountable, meaning the hiring manager, by tying the diversity, equity, inclusion metrics in their performance review. When your hiring manager wants to hire somebody, if you have an HR department, they might have included some of this into their hiring metrics. But some other company, the hiring manager is an individual. So in order to make sure that process is carried through, you need to have the DEI metrics built into that. Offer development opportunity, regardless of gender. And in fact, all companies need to have training and development program for all employees every year. And we should not exclude one gender from the other. And encourage cross-gender professional relationship. That is to make sure that everybody can learn from each other. Number 5 is not the last. There are many things we can do. Is to eliminate the glass ceiling. Glass ceiling is actually a metaphorical expression. Is that somehow there's this barrier that you can only go so far. And if you are female or you are male, whatever is your gender, you feel that after spending 10 years, you are going nowhere, you either quit, you change job, you go to another company that believe in gender equality. Some of the practical things, if your company has not started it, can be very simple. Just be fair. You have to be fair to everybody. Support women if your company or your organization has an imbalance, or you feel that you haven't done anything and your attrition rate for women is very low, very high, then you have to think what are the things you need to do. Same thing for men. If there's a lot of male who resign from the company, you need to study and understand what are the things you need to do. Of course, provide for equal pay. Having a company structure, having a salary scale for the responsibility and the KPI, it doesn't matter which gender you are, they should get equal wages. One very underrated thing that we have to do is to provide training. Training not just for the leader, training is for the whole company, so that eventually the organization will become less toxic. A lot of times we say we do not recognize, we do not realize. It's not because we want to belittle the other gender or female. It's because we are not aware that this can be offensive. Until I joined the MNC, I also have say or done certain things. At the time, I didn't realize it's offensive. Some of you may also resonate with what I just said. So after going through the training, I start to realize that, gender equity, the process starts from me. Okay, thank you very much. I hand back to Architect Alice.
Thank you, ST. This is a wonderful presentation and very informative. Thank you so much for your presentation. Right. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we are now actually enter into the next session, which is the room forum discussions about how gender equities and gender equalities um, applies, or maybe what's going on around in our country, in our construction industry. It could be from the architects, designers, all the way down to the suppliers, manufacturing, and all this. So, without further ado, I think in the beginning that Lillian's already introduced three our panels. So first, I would like to get our first panelist onto the screens, and he is Joey from Jotex and Berhad. And Joey, you may have a few minutes to have to talk about what is you want to introduce about yourself, a little bit of company profile before we start the discussions. There you have. There you go.
Thank you, Architect Alice. Hello, everyone. I'm Joey from Jotex Sdn Bhd. Let me introduce our company. Jotex was founded in year 1989. Jotex is a leading global supplier of interior furnishing fabrics. Our wide range of collection and design contains fabrics that met all the residential and commercial, including fabrics like curtains, drapery, upholstery, and wall covering, the wallpapers. Jotex brand now are in more than 10 countries. We distributed more than 1,000 curtain dealers, interior designers, sofa, furniture makers and manufacturers in hospitality, healthcare sectors across Southeast Asia. So we also face a different gender, culture and diversity across the different market. Together with Jotex brand, partners, customers, suppliers, we are constantly enhancing our technical knowledge and expertise, continuous investment in operations, service result, in sustained ever improving satisfaction customer across all genders. Basically, they are all our partners across different countries, suppliers. What we did is we do the design. Our product is designed through the different countries. So we source the best material of yarn, polyester, cotton from India and Turkey. And then we start the weaving process where we weave and knit the fabrics using our machines. Then we dye the fabrics into different colors. Then we do the final inspection and we do the shipping to our end customer. Jotex, we have our environment approach and social. We have ISO 9001, which is an international standard that ensure our products and services are safe, reliable, and good quality. Our vision, mission, and basically at Jotex, we care about people and the environment. So we have to treat everyone in our company equally. Also, we are green conscious. The material that we source from our manufacturer, or even we weave the fabric, all Ecotex certified, which means everything it has to be safe to meet the strict international green sustainable. So what we did, we have to make sure all the products are safe. Jotex employees and all genders are equally treatment within all our management. I'm going to talk a bit quickly about the gender equality. So we have Jotex, we have a standard hiring policy where all our human resource management, we can hire both females and males. All genders and different races have the same opportunity to join us. But in the warehouse and production, we tend to have more male workers or instead of female because the rolls of fabrics which are heavy. So males are mainly suitable, but for our administrations and sales and marketing, we have more female workers than male at the moment. For the end customer, we don't really know they are female because we are a distribution company. So we mainly deal with dealers, interior designer, and architects. So they will deal with the end customer based on their which type of the customer are. So in terms of this equality, and we try to improve our products. So we have wider range of colors, design patterns of our fabrics. So the wider selections whereby reduce our genders stress or complication on decision making, either they are female or male. So we also launched the website digitally, whereby using apps and mobile, they can go through the online website. They can see all the design textures based on their taste and selection. So our upcoming product also, we provide something like easy clean for upholstery, and also antibacterial and viruses on our curtains, and also some of the new air purifying technology on curtains, where they can actually do the air cleaning on our house. So far fabrics are able to easy clean. So these are the advantages across for all the genders during this COVID and pandemic. I think that's all about Jotex. So now we'll pass back to Architect Alice for others exhibitor to talk about their company and products. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you so much. And next we have our second panel, which is Mr. Desmond Ho from the DML Aluminum Ceiling Products in Berhad. Desmond.
Hi there, Alice.
Hi.
Thank you very much. All right, so I'll take it off from here. My name is Desmond Hall. I am from DML Products. We specialize in aluminum ceiling and louvers. On top of that, our company has been around for the past 25 years, and we specialize in mostly aluminum ceiling, louvers, as well as other products that we tailor custom made for our various clients based off of their requests. So within our company, to make it very brief, all our products are usually very unisex in terms of its demand for the clients. So for our louvers, for our ceilings, they're just basically just about anywhere. However, as I previously mentioned earlier, our custom-made designs are more tailored to what the clients are after. So our clients range from architects, from interior designers, all the way down to the owners, to the subcontractors. So if they have a specific design, in case they're female or male, whatever they may be, they may have a special design that they're after, and that's where we step in and specialize in creating something towards their desire. Now, on top of that, we also face the challenge of the clients that we faced. So when the clients sometimes may consider our sales or marketing personnel to approach them, they may have options between choosing a specific gender to entertain them on their requests. Now, within our company itself for DML, we do not discriminate one another. So when there's a demand from a client for a certain gender, we work in the team-based environment. So that means no one gets put stranded there in case they're not part of the group. In that case, if, for example, a female sales employee of ours were demanded a male person to entertain the client based off client demands, we work as a team together to get that going and possibly hold their hand together and walk through the whole process together so that discrimination is not valid. On top of that one, so after we talk more about our employees and how they handle their work, we also talk about how our company treats our employees or future prospect employees. Our company, first of all, does not have any gender equity or equality policy. However, we have that culture deep within us over the past 25 years of working in the industry. That being said, the majority of our department heads are mostly females, and we have a variety in terms of workers from our production line who are males, and we have a lot of our sales and the rest of the office that are predominantly females, but also mixed in with a couple of males. Now, we're not saying the equality here is unfair, meaning why is there more male in the production or why is there more female in the office? The reason being is our human resource department works not in discriminating one gender to another, rather to focus on our personal working capabilities and experience. As long as we are being able to bring forth our capabilities, our experiences, and that we are able to do what is required by the company, then the company invites us to join, to give it an opportunity, and if we succeed, to flourish within the company. So To put it quite simply, even without a policy on hand, we have it deeply in our roots, and ultimately not discriminate one another and treat all of us fairly and equally. And that's it for my part. Thank you very much. I'll pass it on back to Architect Alice. Thank you.
Thank you, Desmond. Thank you so much. And our third panel will be Mr. Terry from Amolite Furnitures in Berhad. Terry, just have a short minute to talk about introduction of your company profiles. Then we will go for the sessions for Q&A, okay?
All right. Thank you, Architect Alice. Just to give you a brief background, Amolite Furniture is founded in 2013, and we are specialized in built-in furnitures such as kitchen cabinets, wardrobes, and custom furnitures. So we are specialized in high-rise and hotel furnishing. On the retail side, we also have Golden Home Kitchen, which is there's a few showroom exclusively for kitchen designs. So in terms for this topic, I just want to share one of the observation that I realized on our customers. So most of our customers are mainly young couples or families, and most of the time when buying kitchen is a very woman thing. In the past, most of the time, the man will just look at the budget and woman will decide the whole thing, whether it's a functionality and everything. But after this pandemic, our new group of customers, actually, both of them will be very involved in the overall conversation, the design, the things that they need, specifications, etc. So I do think that sometimes it takes a certain structural change in our lifestyle or events that can help us to bring towards the equality, which also relevant in the conversation. I mean, it will bring us to the point that although that we need to push for the equality, there's also a certain events or certain things that we need to, it will help us to bring us towards that equality. Yeah, right. Just a short, simple sharing. Thank you. Right, pass back to you.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, stay on the screen and I'll get our speaker, Dr. Pei and Mr. S.T. Ng to join us, and the other two panels, which is Joey as well as Desmond. Okay, to all the participants and audience, that you can always drop us the questions. You have any questions or query that you need to, or anything that you're unclear, you can always drop and type some things on the chat box on your right side of your screen. So there. Well, okay, now we will start the discussions that is pretty, it relate somehow that gender equity or gender equalities, this particular items is very close related to our construction industry. It doesn't matter it's from architects or up to the manufacturers or suppliers, as I said beginning. So thank you so much. I think for the panels, they voice out based on your observations, even though you guys are providing different products and all these things. But I'm sure that you see, I think since very, very long time ago, that is always has a perception that, oh, the girls have to wear like, the princess dresses, play with the dolls, the housework, products, it has to be go for the girls. And boys should wear dark clothes printed in skulls and dinosaur, to play with the war toys, the guns, construction kits, and blah, blah, blah. So this divisions creates expectations from the boys must to be tough and logically, and for girls must be beautiful, quiet, and caring. So because of this kind of bringing up across the world, so therefore it somehow will affected all the industry, especially in our industry, that especially like come from products, the design language in the light of aesthetic goodness must be masculine or feminine technologies. So I just want to ask that when you face this kind of challenge in terms of to promote your idea. I mean, of course, Joey has said that he will be dealing a lot with architects, designers, and while Desmond and Terry, you deal a lot from all range of kinds of a group of people. So let's hear a little bit from your side that what are the challenge in terms of promote your product. I mean, Joey, your side, you rely so much on your distributors and your dealers. I'm sure certain information, certain data you can collect, and that's how to help you to improve your products. So, any panelists want to start with? Maybe Joey, you want to say something first?
Yeah, actually, we have the ERP and also to collect all the data from Malaysia, Singapore, and Vietnam. So basically, each individuals, the designer, the data, their company, their personal profile, all have been kept, being private and confidential within us. So we can actually do the analysis on what are the products they are usually ordered. You see, we can see the design, the color trend, what are the pattern they like. So from this analysis, we can actually do our sourcing better for the new coming products. And also, I think 85% or 90% of our dealers and in the curtains industry, they are female actually. They are quite tough and strong. They can actually go to the site and do measurement. They do the sewing, packing, and everything. Yeah, compare to females. Yeah, and also interior designer, I think also more into females from our side.
All right, Terry. I heard that before the pandemics, and now we are in the is still in the pandemics, and the change of view that the involvement of the gender. I think this is a very good thing because right now it's a very tough times that it's no longer that one choose one just pay. So they have to plan carefully, isn't it, to select the right one, the most
Yeah.
suitable for them, and the cost wise also. So in this kind of situation, I think it's a good change. So, well, how are you going to actually when come to these things that I'm sure you have to understand both and how you're going to promote and give them the advice in terms from your specialties or expertise, you know?
Okay. Thank you, Alice, for the question. So we came to the conclusion that during this pandemic, most of the parents or most of the male and female both stay at home and they contribute in actually, I think the male which always go out for work, for entertainment, now they have to stay at home, and they realize that actually females also, there's quite a lot of work at home. They don't really just work, but they still have to take care of the family, cooking, housework, etc. So during this time, the family have to stay together. They help out and resolve the questions and the problems together, and they really understand the importance of the role of female, especially. So after this pandemic, you see most of my customers, when they come to discussion, they will really have that understanding that they already gained during that stay-home period, where they understand the role of each other. They are more considerate on the selection, the choices. Yes. So they
But
no longer like men just look at the budget, like, okay, you decide, I'll just pay. It's no longer like that,
what about from the say the architects or interior designer point of view? Because we understand that this is also fall under this. Our industry is fall under essential anyway. So certain project is still going on, and tenderings are calling and here and there. So is there any changes in terms of selections of the elements or material itself from the male and female architects or designers? Is there any change because of these pandemics?
So far, I have not seen any changes, but I suspect the changes will eventually come because I like our industry, like construction, things are like project based. So it might take some time that we are still lagging behind. But I would foresee that in the future, definitely you will see some changes on the design, changes on this selection of materials, like what Architect Alice has mentioned. Yes.
I think back to Desmond, because your product, I think we all, most of us are understand is aluminiums and ceiling is pretty gender neutralized design. So you basically, I think you already say that you can custom it to suit any of any categories, any groups of people, whether they are from different genders. But well, when it comes to this, when they request to do certain design for or selections of colors, will your side, your teams will be able to give a more fruitful or more productive ideas or suggestions to this group of people when they come to this kind of they plan to do something, the design into this, or they wanted the colors to match in such a way. Yep.
I think for our company, the way we do things is, as you said, we have our standard. And then when it comes to the custom side of things, we deal it on a case-to-case basis or project basis. A lot of times we deal is with interior designers, or even sometimes with the owner themselves, because these are the ones that really look into going for the special sort of designs, and they're the ones with the idea that they envision, and then we come up with the structural integrity of how to create such a things. So in a way, yes, to answer your question, we also help design, but we draw the idea from the client itself. So whatever their inspirations are, we put it on paper, and that's what we portray. So it could be in terms of its shape, it could be in terms of its color, or the overall effect that it produces.
Great. So, okay, I think the next question I think we'll pose to our speakers really. So, well, I think Dr. Pei Ying and ST have a very full informative presentation, which is very good and excellent for that. So, just further from that, I will just to let our audience to enhance them, to tell them a little bit more that what are actually the benefits of having this gender equality or diversities, to be implemented in our whole entire construction industry. Yeah. So maybe Dr. Ping, you want to talk a little bit about that from your point of view as an architect?
Yeah, I think inclusivity and diversity is always good for all aspects in our life, right? It offers a different perspective. Women look at things differently. I mean, you don't even talk about gender differences. As an individual, you come from different cultural background, you are trained differently, but all these differences actually bring diversity and interest and different perspective to the built environment that we're in. You're not so monolithic anymore. So the female's perspective, it's not just female alone, but they are being trained differently. They come from different background, and they have a lot more to contribute. And nowadays, if you look at the younger generation, we don't want to differentiate gender anymore. We are all treated as an individual, right? We should embrace differences. All of us are brought up differently. So at the end of the day, we should not talk about just gender equity anymore. We should talk about diversity and inclusivity. So that is the final target that we should be looking at, right? Gender equity, we are emphasizing on it now because we are very far behind. So we are pushing for it. But eventually, I think we should push for diversity and inclusivity, not just gender alone. Yeah. So I think that's,
Sorry, ST, what about you? ST?
As I said just now, a company may have a policy on gender equality or equity. You may have, you may not have. But I think important is that every one of us must take responsibility to recognize that, we have to be fair to everybody. So it comes from the language we use, the behavior, in an office or whether in a job site. I remember in the beginning when I started working, I remember my boss used to tell me, accountant, I prefer lady. I prefer female. They can work long hours. They are more meticulous. This is actually a form of bias. Yeah. And then earlier I also talked about, if you are the leader of the business, you need to allocate the balance resources for people, not only in terms of training, promotion, mentorship, and all that. In a construction job site, just let me tell you one of the job sites we had when I first joined them was, we go, the site office and the site is two different things. So we have female QS as one architect, junior architect was there. So, and there was no female toilet. I mean, a very simple thing is no female toilet. Yeah. So if you are the owner of the construction company or the developer, or you are the architect, you are the owner, I think one of the things at site meeting is you have to provide clean female toilet. Yeah. So this is a very fundamental thing. Before the pandemic, we can talk about, that female, when they are just have given birth, they need a lactation room, they need nursery. But now that, as what Terry said, a lot of female also work from home. Yeah, we also benefit the male, the husband, the know that, the wife don't just do this. Yeah, and they have to do their work. So I think in the way, it all comes down to every one of us to do our part. Yeah. And I absolutely agree with Tan Pei was saying that, it's diversity is the end game. Yeah, we must all include be inclusive about the colleague that we work with, which is actually very good for business.
And I hope
Thank
one
you.
day we will transcend beyond races and also gender. We look at individual, right? You engage somebody because of the individual's capability, not because she's a male and female. I do not want to be branded as a woman architect. Why should I be different as compared to all the other architects? I'm an architect. I'm qualified. You look at my qualification because of what I have achieved, but not because I'm a woman architect. Like Sarah Hardy always said, don't brand me as a woman architect. I'm an architect, right? So end of the day, I think we should go beyond and transcend beyond all this gender biasness and stereotyping.
Yeah, agree. Thank you. So, Dr. Paying, there's questions from a student that we received, and this student is asking that will PEM Education's arm concentrate more on guiding more females architects? That's the question.
Okay. If you look at the recommendation and the principles that were adopted in the PEM policy on gender equity, that document is very, very new. So we still have a long way to go. Definitely, we need to make effort in all areas, starting from education to practice to all spectrum. So definitely, if PEM is serious in adopting the policy, definitely they need to look at how to promote more female participations in education, not just in education, but also in practice, to find a pathway for them to come back. As you can see, in terms of the percentage of students, we are actually achieving almost 50%. This is happening across the whole world, actually, from the survey that we did. But unfortunately, a lot of them drop out. Why? Because they have additional responsibility. They left and have their family, started a family, and there's no pathway for them to come back. So we have to create a pathway for them to join back the profession, so we retain them. So these are all the things that we need to do. But as I said, and ST rightfully point out, we cannot do it on our own. We need the whole industry, everybody to make an effort to make it happen, right? We are all different, so you need to create a pathway for us to come back.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Payne. I think one more last question for all the speakers as well as the panels before we hand over to our MC. Oh, there's another question coming in. Question for both academics, Dr. Payne and me. Okay, I let Dr. Payne answer. What's the advice for young female professional who just joined the industry to deal with constructions and contractor that majority are male domain? So, Dr. Payne?
Okay, I had the problem when I first came back. Contractors look at me with a colored eye. They're very, very biased. But end of the day, you need to prove to them you're just as good, right? You talk with authority, you know what you're doing. End of the day, you'll find that you first thing, I think you should not stereotype yourself in the first place. You treat yourself as a qualified architect. You go there with your knowledge, you command the knowledge, and end of the day, they will respect you. So now when I go to the site, nobody there to brand me as a female architect anymore. But I must say there's still a lot of stereotyping. There's still a lot of discrimination. But like I said, if you are good in what you're doing, end of the day, people will look beyond your gender. So be good in what you do, and you must have passion and persevere through it. End of the day, I'm sure, hopefully one day we will all go past the stage where people stereotype us. I look at the younger generation, I think there are less and less stereotyping. The stereotyping happens more towards people like our age, we all gone through that period. But I think the younger generation do recognize and embrace diversity a lot more.
Yeah, I think then from my point of view as an architect, of course, in this stage, it's not easy for me to reach this level. This stage, you definitely have to work really hard to scale up yourself to gain all the knowledges. Because, to be frank, until today, especially when you're dealing with in the construction site, there are still, I wouldn't say zero, still people will look at me first judgment that female, you are feminine, you don't know anything, that kind of eyes, you can interpret all. But lucky in the sense that I don't get it from all my manufacturing suppliers. They are very friendly to me and they will explain and feed me all the information. I'm so happy with that. But I think for the construction side, yes, because those are the tough men on the site. So to talk to them, very importantly, is really your knowledge. Without the knowledge, people really will treat us like, the tradition people say, yeah, like beautiful vase or whatever. But I always say that a vase, but I'm not the 5 ringgit vase you can get. This one is very expensive. You can't get it. Right? Okay. Oh, very popular. Okay, Dato, another question. Okay. Design is meant to be inclusive of the societies. And gender no longer draw the line as the world is now more rainbow. What is the advice from architects and designer point of view as we approach to designing a new building?
I think the approach to building design, everybody approach it a little bit differently. But to me, whatever building, you need to look at who are you building that building for, right? It must be contextual. It must fulfill the requirement. You must consider your commitment to green and sustainability. So end of the day, there are many aspects to consider. And people tend to stereotype also say that woman is a better designer because they consider more comprehensively in terms of all the inputs. But I also don't quite agree. End of the day, you deal with the client, you must understand the requirement. At the end of the day, who are you designing the building for? You also have an obligation to ensure whatever they design, you're responsible to the environment that you're going to impact, right? So there are many considerations, and of course, budget. There are actually many factors for you to consider. I don't think you should even stereotype that the design should be male or female. End of the day, I mean, this is a question that I've been asked so many times. Do we approach design differently? I think it goes back to fundamental of design. When you design, right, you go back to the first principle, right? Who are you designing for? What is a building meant to be? It must be functional. It must be contextual, right? End of the day, it must be sustainable. Now we even talk about sustainability, meeting the requirement, and even go beyond sustainability, right? So there's you don't draw the boundary anymore, right? Yeah.
I totally agree with Dr. Ping. I think these are again based on individual capability. It's no longer we have to see beyond than the gender by itself. So this is very important. Okay, we have questions for all the three panelists. Okay, one by one, I'll read out the question and you have to answer questions, right? Do you see difference in the patterns by the designer or the architects as we come into the modern world, as mentioned by Dr. Paying, that gender no longer draw any line? So I start with Joey.
Yes, Architect Alice. I think the most important now is not between the gender, male or female, to do the design. I think if architects on the building design, I think more towards the health and sustainable. I think that's a key important one. So for product side, as we supply, we are also moving more towards health conscious, like easy clean or sustainable buildings. The fabrics, it can be recycled. Then maybe the sofa fabrics and the curtains, it can be purify the air, antibacterial, antivirus. I think these are the more important feature that we need to improve rather than focusing on the gender equality. Yeah.
Maybe I'll add on a little bit on that one. People tend to say women design differently from men, but I don't agree. I think even among male architects, you have different architects coming from different school, adopting different trend and different philosophy of design. So they have their own unique design feature that is special to themselves. So end of the day, it's diversity. There's no right or wrong answer, and it's not related to gender. At the end of the day, it boils down to individual, right? And it also boils down at the end of the day, who are you designing for?
Mm-hmm. So Desmond, if anything to say?
I think what Dr. Tan just said is quite right because, well, at least from my end, when it comes to dealing with architects or designers or the owners in terms of the products that we're offering. Say if I were to throw back 20 plus years ago, right? From what they did back then to what they are doing now, you definitely see a difference. And the difference being here is, for example, in terms of like louvers, right? This very standard colors that they could go for are the monotonous silver, gray, black. But we're coming now to a certain age where, because a lot of the younger generations are coming out with designs of their own, with inspirations of their own, and those designs, they don't cross, they will actually cross the border of gender equality. It can be anything, right? It can be, as what the previous question was talking about, in a more rainbow sort of design. By that, meaning there is no such thing as fixing a certain color to a specific gender based off of a stereotype. So just because it's a male architect does not mean that he can't get a pink color.
Correct.
As an example. Yeah, so that's what we do in our company as well. From what we've seen with what our clients are asking of, in terms of, say, for example, color, as I just mentioned, it's a variety. It's no longer just stereotypical. I want that because I'm male, or I want that because I'm a female. I have no choice.
That makes life more interesting, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. That's why we have a lot of get the building design getting better and better because of this creativeness. All right, Terry, for your point of view, maybe you want to say from a point of
Right.
view.
Just to agree that everyone's opinion on this, I also agree that there's no gender in terms of design from the architect or designers that I deal with. I guess they are more like client oriented instead. You know, ultimately, what's the goal and objective of the whole project, and what are the things that we want to achieve to deliver? I think that would be the more on the focus rather than being male or female, right? Yep.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah, I do agree because I think talking about kitchen, people always project to the household, but you totally forget there's a lot of professional chefs. They are actually male, and they are in hotels, in everywhere, so it's pretty diverse these, right? So I thank you to all the speakers and all the panels because our time is really running short already. We overshoot a little bit, but it's okay. And before I close out everything, thank you so much for your spending the time, and it's a very great platforms, and hope again we have these kind of continuations of a discussion. This is just only first. I think more to become, and let the whole world know about it, because this is going to be shown around the whole world. It's not just in Malaysia only. So thank you so much to speakers, thank you so much to panels, and also the audience spend time with us. I hand back these sessions to our MC Lillian. Thank you.
Wow, what a great sharing today by our interesting speakers and panelists today. You guys did so well. I was so excited about the entire topic. Okay, a very big thank you. Yes, I wish we had more time, but unfortunately, this is all the time that we have. So a big thank you to you, the panelists, Mr. Joey, Mr. Desmond, and Mr. Terry. You guys were awesome. And to our key speakers, Dato Peng and Mr. S.T. Ng, you guys were very, very good at sharing, and your PowerPoint presentation was so good. As well as a big thank you to our wonderful and beautiful host, Architect Alice. A big round of thank you and a virtual applause for all of you. Clap, 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 clap. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time today. We would like you to do a quick and short survey through the link, which is now in the comment section, to let us know how you think of ARCHIDEX Fast Forward webinar series. We hope to see you again in our next webinar session. Thank you so much. See you and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.